welcome to today's session of Is It Possible? We are just going to wait a minute or two for everybody to come in. I'm Jess, I'm your host for this episode, which is episode 4 for Cloud. We have some great faces in amongst the mix today. Would somebody like to ask me how I knew it was a webinar day today?
How did you know?
The gas company decided to start digging up the road outside my house. So if you guys hear insufferable noise in the background, I apologise. I thought they went away and then they came back. So fingers crossed that they are going to keep it down while we're on this session. If not, I apologise. There's nothing I can do. But how are we doing? So we are almost at 2 minutes past. I will start introducing our wonderful panelists. So joining us today, we have some familiar faces and some new faces. So we have the wonderful Romy Greenfield, who is Engineering Tech Lead for Enhanced Search for Jira. We have the inimitable Bobby Bailey, Customer Success Manager. We have Adapter Ken himself, Ken Mclean, who is one of the Adaptivist technical consultants. A new face in Maria Barrios, who is joining us from the Adaptivist side of the house, who is Product Marketing Manager. Kristian Walker, King of Is It Possible, one of the software engineers for the Cloud team. Wonderful Briana Newsome, another of our amazing senior product managers, and Jill Patterson, an amazing duo, in my humble opinion. Hi, everybody. Okay, let's kick off, shall we, with some housekeeping. So participants, you are all on mute. Please feel free to use the chat function, say hi. We like talking to you. The only thing we ask you to sort of not do is to direct message the panelists. So we aren't able to keep track of those messages so easily. So hanging out in the back end, we have Kirsty and Lisa, who will be making sure that your questions, comments get seen, get answered, but the direct messages we can't moderate. So please use the open chat for those or the Q&A function. As we say, if you've got any questions about what it is that we're presenting, then please drop those and we'll cover the questions that we get in the time that we have available to us. If you have a question for a future session, so it's not related to what we're talking about today necessarily, then please drop it in the official form, which Kirsty will be dropping throughout the session. And we'll also be sending that afterwards with the recording of today's episode. So with that, let's kick it off and find out, is it possible? First off, we have Romy, who has a demo for us around JQL in Jira Cloud comparisons.
Hello, let me share my screen.
Take it away.
Okay, cool. Hopefully you can all see my screen. This is my Jira instance. We also have in our docs, in our Adaptivist docs, if I should go up here and close that because that always gets in the way. So if you go into the ScriptRunner for Jira Cloud docs, which are available online at docs.adaptivist.com/sr4jc, you can also just go to the main website and find it on there. If you look under features and you look under ScriptRunner Enhanced Search, you can see there's some comparison with ScriptRunner for Jira Server. This gives you this page. And it gives you the Jira Server JQL and then what the Jira Cloud equivalent JQL is. So there are some things that are different that you will have to change, or we try to automatically change if you migrate over from server to cloud using the JCMA. But these are some of the things that you can still do with Jira Cloud. And we'll also put where there are things that aren't currently available. If you want those things to be available, we encourage you to vote for them on our NOT board. We will always be looking to see what our customers want and when we're working on new features. So if there's something that is missing and you really need it and it will be really helpful for you, please let us know on the NOT board. But yeah, so all of the JQL keywords that we create within Enhanced Search in these examples here, you can use both in the Enhanced Search screen, but also in the native Jira Advanced Issue Search screen. So if I wanted to search for issues that had exactly three comments on them, I can use the number of comments keyword in the Advanced Search, and it will show me this issue here that has exactly 3 comments. My Zoom bar is getting in the way, so I'm just going to make that smaller. Same if you wanted to do comparison with more than 3 comments. Got a different test issue here I've created. So you can see it's bringing back issues that have more than that number of comments. You can look at when the last commented date was, rather than the commented, which is the keyword that you would use in server. And here you can see there's a couple of ones that I've added, which are in the last 7 days. So slightly different syntax there, but still getting all the issues with comments added within the last 7 days. You can use a specific date, and that should still work in here. If I grab this one and do today's date, because I wrote some in there today just to show you that this was working. 6/27. It's exactly the same ones because I commented on them all today. You can also do commented by and use the account ID for the user that you're looking for. You can also use commented by current user if you're looking for ones that you've commented on. So again, this will probably show up exactly the same ones because I'm the one that's commented on all of these in my test instance. I haven't actually made any examples for comment visible role or comment visible group, but these are the replacements for issue function in commented. And this is the syntax here on how to get the comments with issues that are restricted to those types of roles. So issues with comments by user in the Jira users group, specifically, we can't use this in group. We don't have anything that's comparable for that in group at the moment in Cloud. So again, if that's something that you really use a lot or really need, please vote for that on our note board. You can do the last commented by, last commented date. I'm not going to show you those because again, the test data that I've got in there is really samey. So you'll just be seeing me search for the same 3 issues over again. Issues with the most recent comment authored by user with a particular role, we don't currently have in Cloud. So again, please vote for that if that's something that you need. Number of attachments. I think I've put some examples in there for you. So again, we can do number of attachments, and we've got some that have got lots of attachments on here. This is my favorite one. Everyone loves a cat loaf. Yeah, so if it's that kind of replaces has attachments, you can also do it for larger numbers. You can use all of the different operators, less than, equals to a specific number, greater than or equals to. You can search for specific types of attachments. So I know that I did one with a PDF, I think, earlier. So if you put in the suffix of whatever type of file there is there, then you can look for the specific issues that have that type on them. You can also search for when the file was attached, and also if it was attached before or after the last login of that user using the last login native JQL function. Using the start of week function is not available currently in Cloud. So again, if you need any other types of functionality that aren't working currently with our first attachment date, please let us know by voting on our note board or raising a product support issue. We will also add that to our note, tell you to go to our note board if you go via product support. You can search for who the file was attached by, again, using the account ID of the user. We prefer you using account ID because it gives you more regular results. We've had some reports of irregularity when using a display name rather than the account ID. So I would always use the account ID just to be on the safe side. Again, we've got some more things available here. We've got the work logged by specific user with that account ID. You can actually have in native Jira Cloud. So these aren't actually provided IS, so you can just use native Jira Cloud for those. We also have some functions available. So date compare, subtasks of, parents of, and some others down here, linked issues of, epics of, issues in epics, lots of functions that you might be using currently. They're all available on ScriptRunner Enhanced Search for Jira Cloud as well, under the JQL functions section of our docs, which I've currently got open. The only difference is, instead of using that in the advanced issue search here, you will have to go to your apps page and you have to open up ScriptRunner Enhanced Search. Hopefully this loads. There we go. And then if you wanted to find some issues with some linked issues that were in project equals team, there we go, and we want something that's blocked by, you can use this handy query builder that we've created to add that to your query, or you can just type it by hand directly into this search bar, and then you can search for that and get all of your issues that are blocked by something in that particular project. If you try and write this into the native Jira search, you will not get results. You will get this error message. So if you ever see this error message, you know that you're just typing one of our enhanced search specific functions into the wrong place. So please do type it into here. You can also use all of our keywords in the ScriptRunner Enhanced search bar as well. So if it's your preference to keep everything in the same place, you can use native Jira terms inside ScriptRunner Enhanced Search as well. That's totally up to you. But yeah, keywords can be used in the native search, and functions have to be used in the specific ScriptRunner Enhanced Search page. So that's about it. Please feel free to visit our docs to see what is available and what isn't available. And again, I really encourage you to add anything that you want to see in Enhanced Search to our Nult board so that other customers can vote for it and we can add it to our roadmap and build it for you. But yeah, hopefully that shows you a little bit of what can be done on cloud that's currently done on server. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Romy. I'm definitely going to be sending links to Catloaf tickets on a daily basis to my team. I will just resume my share over here. And I didn't know that the query builder existed in that section. So every day is a school day and I've learned something new today by hosting this session. So thank you, Romy, for that. Next up, we have a question from Wade. Is it possible to retry an API call if there is a 504 gateway timeout? I know the man to answer this question. Ken, is it possible?
Yes. Cool, that was easy. All right. Share my screen. Let's take a look at the solution. Cool. Okay, so first and foremost, what is a 504 gateway timeout? Anytime your browser makes a request for resources from a website or an internet connected resource of some kind, whatever is returned comes with a response, and the response is numerical. In the case of a 504, that means that the server on the other end timed out, didn't respond in time. So that forms the crux of the question. How can we address instances where the request timed out but didn't necessarily fail because I used the wrong password or it straight up didn't find what I was asking for? For purposes of clarity, if it works correctly, you get 200 back. Nice round even number, 200. So there is this handy dandy little service here that allows us to test whichever HTTP response codes we so wish to work with, because otherwise, in order to test something like a 504, you have to somehow break the API call that you were trying to test. So this stops us from having to find a way to break Jira Cloud. So let's take a look at some examples. We're going to kind of build on a couple of things as we go. So this is ScriptRunner for Jira Cloud. This is Unirest. This is the most basic, just how do I make a REST request in ScriptRunner for Jira Cloud? And what we're going to do is if I hit run, it is, of course, making a request to the 504 version of that HTTP status, which should return a 504, which is what we want to test. It thinks for a minute, and then what it returns is a bunch of information, including the status, which is 504. So if the request that we're making returns a 504, we can probably work with that somehow. If it tells us what it did, then what we can do is we can tell it to retry if that is indeed the case. So building on that first little chunk, what we have here is a loop that checks to see if a 504 was returned, and if it was, then it tells us that, okay, 504 was returned, let's try it again. If that same aforementioned 200 is returned, then we break the loop and continue on with our day, presumably doing something with the information that is returned. So if it's a 504, it just keeps trying. If it's a 200, it stops trying. But there's a little problem with this piece of code in that it will keep trying as long as you get a 504 back. So if anything but a 504 is returned, you're good. If it keeps returning a 504, this is going to loop forever. So that's maybe not ideal. So building on that a little bit, second here, let's make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay, cool. Okay. So essentially what we have here is the same version of that script, but we have told it how many times we want it to repeat. So we have the max number of tries that we wanted to retry, which is 3, and it starts at 0. And as long as it hasn't tried more than or equal to 3 times, it keeps going. So it will try the request 3 times, and when it gets to that number, whether or not it has been successful or it has received a 504, it just stops. It does whatever else the rest of the script does. But in order to prevent yourself from winding up in a permanent, indefinite, infinite loop, we want to tell it you should only try this a few times because it's possible that the server will never respond. Additionally, what we've done is we have wrapped the whole thing in a try catch, which means that if anything else is returned, if there's something unexpected that's returned, it also increments that same number of tries and tries again up to 3 times. In this way, we have essentially handled whatever it returns. If it returns a 200, which means that it is successful, then all it does is exceed the maximum number of retries. So if it's successful, it sets max retries to 4, because status checks would then not equal that. It stops the loop and does something with the data that you want it to do, or just tells you, hey, I couldn't access this resource, tried a couple of times, I'm done. This is sort of the point at which it would do something with the data. I looked into whether there was something like a retry function, a native retry function with the Unirest framework, and didn't find anything. This is probably the best or the most concise solution to handling something like a 504 or any other HTTP request code that you wanted to try a few times, but not try 1,000 times in a row when you were paying attention to the code. I think that's about it. That's the best way. That's how we handle it. Loop it a few times, give it a limit, and then it either works or it doesn't, but you know what's happening and you're not stuck in a loop forever. That's about it.
I was gonna say, no one wants to be stuck in a loop forever, so
No.
Got to have a get out, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you, and hopefully, Wade, that helps. I can see a reply that says that does. Awesome. I will just reshare my screen. Also, Ken's code and a little write-up will be shared on our website, so keep an eye on the inbox for the follow-up. We'll include that link so that you guys can replicate that for yourselves without having to pause YouTube and type out the code line by line. We wouldn't do that to you. So let me reshare my screen and we'll move on to our next question, which comes from community, actually. So The question here, is it possible to create a Jira issue automatically when a Confluence page is changed? We usually write our product requirement docs on a Confluence page and want to track its changes, creating new Jira tickets automatically to respond to it. Is there any way? Now, you're not about to hallucinate. You're going to see two versions of Bobby Bailey. Bobby's been traveling. He's just got back from Tel Aviv, literally hours ago. He's an absolute trooper, so he showed up here to answer any follow-up questions that you guys might have about this demo. But he's created a video to tell us if this is indeed possible, and it might introduce a new tool from Adaptivist that we think could interest some of you in the audience as well. So, Bobby from the past, take it away.
Hello, my name is Bobby, and in this video I'm going to be answering the question, is it possible to listen for changes in a Confluence document and raise Jira tickets when those changes are made? And the answer to that is yes, using Stitchit with a little bit of help from ScriptRunner. With Stitchit we can create connections to both of the tools listed through our connections feature. So if I go here to connections and click create new, you'll see that we have both Confluence Cloud and Jira Cloud here listed, so I can create connections to those tools and Stitchit will manage those connections, the authentication, token, password, etc. for me. I've already got those created, so I'm going to go to my workspace. So when I go to my workspace here, I define three things. I define the event that we're listening for, so in this case changes to the Confluence page. I define the APIs that we're going to be communicating with, so in this case you can see here I'm going to be communicating with the Confluence Cloud and Jira Cloud APIs, and then finally I write the script in which is going to enact my business logic between those two tools. Now, one thing to note here is that for event listeners, when I click to create a new, you'll see we have a list of tools here. These tools have features built into them that allow us to configure them to send information to Stitchit. So with Jira and Confluence on premise, for example, we can create webhooks. In Jira Cloud, we can also create webhooks. However, Confluence Cloud is missing that feature, so we don't have a way natively for Confluence to send information to Stitchit. However, we do have a generic connection, so that's what we've created here. The generic connection gives me a unique URL that I can see if I go to my setup instructions, and as long as I send data to that URL or endpoint, it will trigger the script. So I've created a generic endpoint, and this is where ScriptRunner is going to help us with Confluence Cloud. When I go to Confluence Cloud ScriptRunner, I can create a listener, and the listener will monitor the changes for me. So if I go and view this here, we can see that we're listening for when a page is updated, and then when a page is updated, we're going to be executing this script. What this script is saying is all it's doing is getting basic information of the page that was updated, and it's sending it to Stitchit so that we can execute that script. Stitchit is now detecting that, executing the script. All this script is doing is using the Confluence Cloud REST API to extract more information about the page itself, double checking that it's in the correct space, and when it is, checks that it is in the right space, we go and we get the correct issue type and the correct project to create the ticket for in Jira, and we use the managed APIs here to create an API call to create a Jira Cloud issue. So you can see here we use the managed API. When I go Jira Cloud the managed API breaks down the API endpoints for me, making life easier to write code to communicate with it. So again, the logic here, all we're doing, we're getting the Confluence page, we're checking it's in the correct space, our PID space. When we double check that it is, we're going to create a ticket in the correct Jira project with the correct issue type, and we're going to add some information such as the author of the Confluence page, or the author of the change, sorry. The summary is going to include the page title, and we're also going to include the version that has been created in the description. So let's see this working. So if I go to this Confluence page, obviously not an example document, but a document nonetheless, I can go and remove, I'm going to change this to another, and I'm going to click publish. I can go back to Stitchit, and I can see here in the log that we're going to detect that event, and now we're starting to execute. And I can go to my Jira instance and go to my project webinar, and I can go and see that we have just made one here. So if I go and have a look at this, we can see that this has been created just now, with a link to the document with me as the change author, which was correct on the Confluence side, and with the version number in the description. So obviously a simple example, you can obviously extract more information from Confluence and send more information to Jira, and Stitcher allows bi-directional integrations as well. So you could create a system where you can create an issue type that will allow you to either approve or reject that change. And then when you do that action in the workflow, you can have Stitcher detect that and go back to Confluence and use the APIs to make modifications to the pages as well. So Stitcher is not just a one-directional integration tool. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, that's Bobby. Don't want to play that again.
Hello, my name is Bobby, and in this video,
Bobby wants to talk again, that's fine. And then, so with this great answer here from Bobby to that question, which connects both Stitcher and ScriptRunner, we thought this would be a really great opportunity for us to invite someone along from the Stitcher team to talk us through how it works, what's possible. Obviously, the nature of this webinar is all about possibility. So with that, I'm going to hand you guys over to Maria, who has a short demo for us.
Thank you, Jess. I'll share my screen. 1 second. Yeah, as Jess just said, we thought it would be a great opportunity to give you a small overview of the app itself, and along the way give you some tips on how you can take advantage of it if you choose to create an account or if you're already using a Stitcher for your integrations. By the way, I'm Maria, the product marketing manager for Stitcher, forgot to mention that. Stitcher is a code first integration tool that is focused on the Atlassian ecosystem of apps. It's a standalone, and that with that it consolidates all your integrations, syncs, and migrations in one single hub. These, of course, allow you to reduce not only your licensing cost, but also decrease tool proliferation by getting multiple integration tools for specific applications. The infrastructure is also fully managed, which helps a lot in terms of security and scalability, and of course, help you speed up the process of building an integration itself. Also, past Bobby in the recording hinted at the fact that with the Stitcher you can build bi-directional integrations, but actually it's meant for the most complex integrations. There's no limits to what you can integrate with a Stitcher, but obviously can be used for simpler bi-directional integrations as well. So once you have logged in, you're faced with a dashboard. In the Stitcher dashboard, you can find our most used templates that sort of shorten the time in which you will get an integration sync done. You can access to all the templates available on the templates menu, on the left menu under templates here. There's also an overview of the account usage, which is not is not enabled yet until the pricing plans are actionable. And also there's a CTA to the knowledge base, which includes great technical and onboarding information to get us started with Stitcher. Speaking of getting started, probably the most interesting part and a great way to get started with your first integration, if you just landed on this page, is taking advantage of the step-by-step setup. So if you click on continue, this little wizard will take you through all the steps from the creation of your workspace to the configuration of each of the elements of the script once into the workspace. So in this occasion, because we have already created a workspace example, I'm just gonna cancel this process, but essentially you will just have to name it, add an optional description, and if you are collaborating with anybody in your organization, you will want to add this workspace to a team. It's okay if it's obviously the first time you log in and you haven't created a team yet. You can do this later, and you can create a team from the Teams tab on the left menu as well. So I'm going to cancel here. Yes. Great thing about the step-by-step guide is that if you want to stop it at any point, you can always continue with a little wizard waving here, or you can close it. So let's go straight into workspaces. For this example today, I'm going to be using this example workspace that I have shared with one of my colleagues. So a workspace is the place where all your scripts really live, where you build them, run them, test them, and deploy them as well. Starting from the left, top left, you can see there's a drop-down menu here where you can easily switch workspaces without exiting the workspace itself. This is something optional and more advanced, but if you wish to maybe test your scripts in a different environment, you can create a new one, or you can use your default one to build your script, run it, and then deploy it. As I mentioned before, this workspace is part of a team that is called Collaboration MB. If you click on the share button here, you can choose to change the settings, either share it with all members or only with admins. My colleague Fatme is an admin as well, so in this case, the tabs are the same. So into the resource manager, which is a key part of the workspace. It's divided into a few sections. So the first one is the README that we have on the right side. It's very handy if you're working with other people or if you're creating a workspace template for someone, since you can add like an overview of the template, of the script. That's what I meant to say. We have a link here to a markdown guide that is very useful if you want to add headers, bullet points, etc. In this case, we have built a script that triggers a Slack message every time a Jira Cloud issue is created or updated, but this can be edited and previewed on the right side of the screen, which is great. So into the scripts, we have built two scripts here. So one is a standalone script to post to Slack, and the other one is a Jira Cloud that posts a message to Slack every time an issue is created or an issue is updated in Jira Cloud. If you wanted to add a new script or run it manually, you will click on this button to add a new one or to run it on the play one, or if you wanted to delete it on the bin button. A great tip, I thought it would be good mentioning, is that when you're working in TypeScript, I'll get into the languages in a second, you can benefit from the assisted code editor. So for example, if you wanted to see what other events are available to import into the script for Jira Cloud, you will type Control space, as it says here in this little banner, and you will see all the ones that are available without having to remember the syntax for each, which is really useful. Yeah, we have other shortcuts and obviously syntax corrections that are available in TypeScript, which will speed up the process of building a script. So going into the API connections, they allow you to call APIs from external services. In this case, we have configured one for Slack. Then we have our event listeners that allow you to listen to events triggered by external services, and we have here one for issue created and for issue updated. And last but not least, we also have schedule triggers which alternatively allow you to schedule your scripts or run your scripts on a schedule. We have a very useful banner here that operates on cron. You can also add your cron expression manually if you prefer. And select the script you want to run and save it. And change this at any point or run them manually if you prefer. At the bottom of the screen, we have our editor console, which will show you any updates like you saw in the demo before that will be run. If you have delete anything, run a script. If there's an error, it will show as well. You can choose to clear the log, obviously, to read things better. And I wanted to mention as well that we have a few useful advanced features like the package manager, which allows you to pull JavaScript packages either from third-party packages and add unverified ones if you want to do so to script. You can also select any of our core or managed API packages to use on your script as well. What else? I was mentioning before that we have different scripting languages, but the default one is TypeScript, mainly because it will help you while you're getting your script ready to run. And before I finish, I thought another useful tip would be pointing to the connect and support. We have a few places where you can find support, including our Stitch Slack community, our support portal, of course, and documentation, which is linked on the dashboard, as well as our YouTube tutorials playlist, where we have a few demos and just editor tips and a few other more specific things to help you use Stitchit. If you happen to have any suggestion for connectors, templates, or any other feature, you can use our note board that is linked in here and either add both existing suggestions or add your own. And I think that is it. If you want to learn more about Stitchit, you can head over the Adaptavis website, or you can type stitchit.app on your browser to create a free account. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. That's really exciting. Yeah, thank you for coming along and showing us that. Obviously, we have a crowd here who loves some Atlassian scripting, so it's exciting to see as well from Bobby's demo how these tools can play together. And I dropped a link in the chat. We're actually doing a webinar next week looking specifically at the Tempo templates that are available in Stitchit. We have Alex from Tempo joining us to look at those. So if Tempo happens to be one of the tools in your Jira toolkit, then pop along for that. The link is in the chat to sign up. And now we have the wonderful Jill, who has an update on Behaviours.
Thanks. Yes. Very, very brief update. Behaviors remains our top priority. So the latest thing to mention, we've been working on improving the scripting experience when you create the behaviors. So we've changed the UI, making it possible to write one script that affects multiple fields instead of having to create multiple scripts all in one behavior. I'll leave it at that. Kristian is going to show you a demo of more of the details in just a minute. So the other thing I want to mention is the ability to limit field options. So field option support is coming soon. This has been something that we know that a lot of you want, need. We need it too. So what this is, it limits any of the choices in like a drop down or checkboxes and things based on a condition. This will be available on certain fields to start. So the ones that make the most sense, we've got priority field and then drop down select and checkbox custom field types. Again, or I've said this in the past, these are things that Atlassian has to release first. So they'll be releasing this thing, the field option support momentarily. Then we'll jump on it and make it available for behaviors. And the other thing to note is that support for issue view is progressing on Atlassian's side. So as we know more, we'll let you know on that as far as timelines go. And right, so I know that there are other things that you need in behaviors, more custom field support, especially issue type. I know that's a big one. Support on different views, this issue view, transition view, support for JSM, support on subtasks. These are all things that we are continuing to bring up with Atlassian to get them on their roadmap so that we can make it possible. So please keep the use cases coming. I just want to let you all know that we do hear you and we're pushing to get these things supported. We personally use behaviors and have been wanting this as well. So we are in the same boat and we are trying to get there as fast as we can. One last thing, if you are blocked from moving to cloud or at least moving to use behaviors altogether, because specifically we don't yet support JSM, please ping me, let me know, let us know. I'd love to follow up with you. And that's it for me. I'll let Kristian take it away and show the demo of our new features.
Where's the best place for people to get in touch with you, Jill, if they want to request these things?
Our note board. We do have all of those things. Please look on the note board because they're there. So you can upvote, you can add your use cases specifically to the things that are already there, or raise a support ticket. Thank you, Lucy. Ping me directly here in this webinar. I'll follow up with you, I promise. Lots of different things.
No, and I think it is important to note that, you know, the stuff that's being unlocked now is because of the feedback that we've had from you guys. So please, please, please keep it coming. Like every time you tell us, we're able to pass that on, and you know, the message is getting received. It's just a case of chipping away at that. Shall we hand over to Kristian from the past to see what the latest update is?
Yeah, perfect. So if you can play the video, here we have a little video explaining the new UI updates.
Brilliant. Let me hit play.
In this demo, I'm going to walk through some of the UX and UI improvements we've made to Behaviours. So to start off with, we'll look at how Behaviours is currently configured. So the way Behaviours are currently configured, I have to specify what project and issue types the behavior will run on, but you also then have to specify what affected field the behavior will run on. And the current limitation here is that the field you specify as the affected field is the only field you can directly update in that script by calling any set methods on. So what this means in reality is that if you have a script that needs to update, if you have a behavior, sorry, that needs to update the summary, assignee and description field, you would have to specify 3 separate affected fields and then write 3 separate scripts to update those. Now as a Jira admin, that can be confusing because it's hard to see what the behavior does, as you have to go through and review multiple scripts. Also, we want to improve the way the code editor looks, because looking at the current modal, we can see the code editor is quite small, and it doesn't take up most of the real estate on the screen because we have this little warning about using TypeScript, and we have these checkboxes which take up a lot of white space. So we want to look to redesign that to give you a larger code editor to make it easier to write the scripts you need. And also we're going to make it so you don't have to specify what fields are the affected fields, as you just can click an add script button, start writing your script, and then when you save the script, we will parse it in the background and work out what are the affected fields. And we can see a demo of that now if we go to a second instance which has the new UI turned on. So we can see here, if I click the create behavior button and create a new behavior called demo new UI, I then have to specify the project that I want it mapped to and the issue type. But we will see, instead of having the add field button we had before, we now have this add script button. So if I click this add script button, what that will do is it will then take us straight into the modal for writing code. And you can see here, as we mentioned, what we've done is we've removed the warning about TypeScript, and we've changed the way that you specify the onload or on change events, and we've made the code editor larger and gave you this link to API documentation directly at the top, just to make writing code easier as an admin. But as we mentioned previously, you can now get the fields you want to update. So we can do get field by ID summary, and we can do set value A. We can do get field by ID bracket description dot set name, new description field, and what we can see is here we've got a script where we're affecting two fields in one script, and when we click save, our parsing logic that we previously mentioned runs in the background, and we can then click on this affected fields, and you will see that the script has worked out that we are updating the summary and description field, and we haven't had to specify those fields up front. So this means for you as an admin, if you need to add a new field, you can just edit the behavior, go in and add some more code. So if we're going to do the assignee field this time, we can do get field by assignee dot set name customer user, and then once we save that behavior again and we click on our affected fields, we will see it now works as free. And also it's worth mentioning, as we said, an affected field is only a field where you perform a set operation on. So if I just added another line of code to get the field as priority, this wouldn't be classed as an affected field. So once we save the script, we will then see that the affected fields still stays as summary, description and assignee, because we are not performing any actions to update priority at the moment. And if we save this, we will then see on the main behaviors config screen as well, we can now see all of our affected fields. And one other thing we've done is we realized with the current approach, it was quite a lot of clicks to have to edit the behavior. So on any of the modals on the home screen, so the mapped projects, mapped issue types or affected fields, we've added in an edit behavior button, and once you click that, it will take you straight back to your behavior, use configuration, and then you can then edit it to make updating the script easier. Thing to mention is in the text editor, where we mentioned previously we've removed the TypeScript warning, we have added this into the editor as placeholder text, so users will still get that warning when they load the text editor. And also the edit behavior buttons on any of the modals on the main page, we're going to look to rename those, so they're called edit script, just to make those clearer. So they're the behaviors UI updates that we've made, and we'll now take any questions on them that you have. Thank you. Okay, perfect. So I see Tom had one question in the chat about can we make the code editor full screen? So we will consider that, Tom, and we'll see if we can do that in future. But we'll in this demo, I'm going to walk through. But if anyone else has any other questions, I'm happy to answer them now. No? Okay, thank you for your time. And I just need to apologize about my squeaky chair. and about my voice, because I've had the sore throat for the past week. So if I was hard to hear in that video, I do apologize. Yeah.
I'm about to go to Nolt and raise a request to get that chair oiled.
Yeah, I need some WD-40, I think. Yeah.
Awesome. No, thank you. That was a great update. And I like the parcel. That's very, very cool. All
In this
right,
demo,
next
I'm going to
we
walk
have-
through some of the...
Not my past Kristian. Next up, we have Briana, who I believe has some updates for us at a ScriptRunner Cloud platform level.
Just a couple brief high-level things. These are still months out, so don't get too excited just yet. We will be continuing to communicate about this as we move forward, but we wanted to give you a heads up. Hopefully exciting for you as well. First is that we are currently working on upgrading to Groovy 4. So again, as Jess said, this is a platform level impact, whether you're on ScriptRunner for Jira Cloud or ScriptRunner for Confluence Cloud, this will benefit you going forward. There are many powerful new features here, some new expressions and methods and types. There are some changes, naming conventions and things of that nature. This will, stay up to date with the latest Java updates and will really set the runway for some improvements to our script editor, which I see in the comments is, of interest here. If you are like me and a little type A and you want some extra credit, we'll share the Groovy 4 release notes so that you can get a head start on this, but we will be communicating the impacts of these changes going forward. And as I mentioned, there is time. We're still a little months out from this. All of this is in preparation, though, for what we hope is a really improved experience in our script editor. This already has been implemented in the on-prem version. So if you are currently using any on-prem versions, you will have some insight into what the Monaco editor will bring for you. But the biggest thing I think here is the autocomplete. It's going to give you autocomplete not only for the scripted variables that we offer, but also for Groovy and the Atlassian REST API, which is kind of a pain. So hopefully this will be a bit of pain relief there. And as I said, more details to come. In the meantime, if you have questions, concerns, you can reach out to us through our support portal. We're happy to provide what information we can. As we get closer and have more details about the exact timings and exactly how this is going to impact you and what you as a customer need to do, we will share that, but we wanted to give everybody just a little bit of a heads up.
And I can promise from the com side, we will let you know with plenty of notice if there's any actions that you need to take ahead of this. So that's exciting stuff. Thank you, Briana. I'm just conscious of time here, so I have a few kind of quick things to cover off and then we'll bring it home. The first thing to say is we've recently been on tour as the ScriptRunner team. So we've had some dates in the US and Canada and a couple of dates in Europe. So if you came along to say hi, thank you. It was great to meet you. We've had some lovely feedback about the session, so we decided to add another stop to this year, which is London for the 21st of September. We're still firming up some of the details, but we wanted to give you as much notice as possible. So if you would be interested in attending an event with us where you get to have some one-on-one time with the lovely Kristian, as you can see here on the screen, those will be open for registration in the next sort of 4 weeks or so. So yeah, keep an eye on your inboxes for that. We would love to meet you and take your questions in person. If you are not based in London and you didn't get a chance to join the tour, this is something that we're going to be bringing back repeatedly now. We loved meeting you guys in person. Like, we live for answering your questions, as you can tell. So we want to do that as much as we possibly can. I just have a quick poll for you guys now. We've been running these sessions for a while. Obviously, this is our 4th one. We just want to make sure that the stuff that we're providing, we're trying to mix it up with updates, news, answering questions, a little bit of everything. But we'd be curious to know what it is that you are here for. Like, what could we do more of to make these sessions as valuable as possible for you guys as Jira and Confluence Cloud users? We would love to know. So I think Kirsty's going to launch that poll for us in a second. Whilst that is just ticking down, I will just say as well, so we've got obviously resources related to today's session. We'll drop these in the chat now if you want to get on any of them immediately, but they will all be shared in the follow-up. And then the final thing from us is to say question submission. So we have some questions lined up for next time from Wade, from Slava. We've had a few through. We would love to answer your specific questions. We can co-own community, we can find these demos, but really we're here for your specific requests. If you have a headache that you think we might be able to help with, we'd love to try. Sometimes the answer is going to be that it's not possible, but we'd always rather go down that route and try and find out for you. So we're here, we love to share. Please lean on us. And with that, I'm going to say thank you to our panelists. I think we can end our poll and bring it home. So thank you everybody very much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.